So these are 5 books that I have read this year and I want to talk about. Hello strangers, I'm Ravenna and today I will be doing a 5-book wrap up. This is basically what it sounds like. It's me talking about 5 books that I have read this year and just my general small thoughts about them. I do 5-book wrap ups because my videos would get really long and then I would never edit them because they were just too much. Because I'm a rambler and I read a lot of books. So firstly we have The Third Wife by Lisa Jewell. I have read tons of Lisa Jewell's books, so not like clear on the details right now because they kind of all bend. A lot of them have the same themes, like children knowing more than adults is a big one. I did write a full review of this book, so my more close thoughts are there. So this one is about a man who has had 3 wives and his current and third wife dies in an accident, but they're not completely sure if it was an accident. So the book is about exploring that. This is definitely not like a filler, and I think it's probably the weakest of Lisa Jewell's books for me because it was dealing with stuff that I'm really not interested in. Because I left the book thinking, wow, these are all terrible people. They deserve each other. And it's just kind of, well, it's sad, really. But like, not sad enough to like be a tearjerker, just sad as in like, life is sad sometimes. But not really that sad. Just like, enigma. Not enigma. Ennui. I don't know. I know the one I'm thinking of, but I've never said it out loud, so I don't know.
Ennui.
So I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. It's okay. It's definitely not a Lisa Jewell book I would say go first with if you're going to read her work. Next, I read Camp by L.R. Wilson. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I love it. This is a book about a queer summer camp, and if that excites you, then you'll probably really love this book. I got this for review, and so that is like a full review rating as well. It deals with a lot of really heavy things like toxic masculinity and internal homophobia, but it has this really awesome backdrop of being a queer summer camp. So we have all these awesome queer characters, and I just really love all the side characters, and I guess the main character and his love interest is okay too. The only thing I will say about this book that could be kind of off-putting is that the main character basically decides he's going to change himself completely for a guy, which isn't great, and it was kind of off-putting to me at first, but I will say that it's dealt with really, really well. If you can like handle like the first few pages of that, then I think you'll really love this book. And like everyone tells him it's a bad idea. It's very much not a supported idea in the fame of the book. It's more like he's a teenager and only a teenager would think this is a good idea, and everyone else is like trying to explain to him like, no, you shouldn't do this, but he does it anyway. And next we have another Lisa Jewell book, which is The Family Upstairs. This book I gave 3 out of 5 stars. It's okay. The certain elements of it I don't buy fully, and like it's kind of has questionable elements to it. There's only one queer character in this book and their actions are kind of questionable, especially like at the end of the book, like, and you can kind of blame it on the way he was raised being really messed up. Lisa Jewell hasn't really wrote a lot of queer characters, so it's kind of can you really have a grey character who's just happens to be gay when you don't have any other queer characters in your books in general? Nothing technically wrong, but it's just I'm not sure of it. I mean, there's other grey characters in this book and he's definitely like the worst person in this book, but still it's, I don't know. Thoughts, feelings, there's a full review down below. I really do like Lisa Jewell's writing, but I think the more I read of her books, the more samey they become. There's a lot of repetition. If you know all her themes and like her tropes, she kind of sticks to the same kind of bag of tropes, which is fine. You know, sometimes I get like sticking to what you know or what you find really interesting when it comes to writing, but I guess it gets slightly boring and tedious if that's all if you're reading the exact same thing from an author. I do still really enjoy her books, and I would definitely read more of them, but I am noticing more and more similar patterns with Lisa Jewell. Next, we have a non-fiction book, which is All That Remains by Sue Back. Sue Back is an anthropologist, a forensic anthropologist, which was why I picked this book up. It sounded really interesting, and like, I had thought about becoming a forensic anthropologist, and I probably would have if I had had the grades, so I didn't apply to it. I mean, I don't know what I'd be doing now, but like, maybe I'd be studying bones and slightly decaying bodies if that had worked out. This book is okay. And I'm going to say this, if you have read a lot of books about like the good death movement, I think you won't really love the beginning of this book. It takes like halfway through until we actually get things that are like really more specific to forensic anthropology. And that's what I was really interested in. A lot of the stuff is kind of like, at the start is talking about how she found herself in forensic anthropology and like her early life and her early experiences with death, which are all relevant, but like I said, if you read other books by people in the good death movement, I don't know if Sue Back is. Like, I read Caitlin Dougherty's books, aka As a Mortician. I've consumed a lot of her work and a lot of like the good death stuff that she does with other people and that whole movement. So it was like a lot of this stuff I'm like, you're preaching to the choir, and I'm kind of bored. Sue Back is Scottish, so that was an interesting element for me, but it just wasn't enough personally to keep my interest. If you find the idea of forensic anthropology interesting, you should finish the book. Or maybe this would be a good book to start with if you've never read or consumed anything about the good death movement. This might be a good book to start with. But sadly, it wasn't a good book for me to read for the majority of it. It does seem to have really mixed reviews on Goodreads. People seem to either really hate it or love it, so I guess it's just where you fall. I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because I just felt maybe the pacing wasn't right and it wasn't personally what I was looking for. And last but not least is Scythe by Neal Shusterman. This is kind of relevant to the last book in that it's about people kidding on to be deaf. The Grim Reaper. This is a book set in a dystopian future where humanity has solved death. Basically, no one can die because everyone is immediately brought back to life. So these are people in this world called Scythes. It's up to them to decide who dies permanently. So it follows 2 Scythe apprentices in this book, and it is a trilogy. So it goes on. You probably heard this book because it has been like around a lot and a lot of people really love it, but I'm only getting into it now because the series is finished and my library had the audiobook, so I finally read it. I do own the first 2 books in the series in physical copies, but like most of my reading right now is in audiobook form or like digitally some form. Even though I do really love reading physical books, it's just how the dice roll right now. So that was a really quick 5-book wrap up for once. So I will see you with us next time, where the video will definitely be longer. Farewell. What if I actually do just start a trend where my videos are short and precise and to the point? Yeah, that's never going to happen consistently. Hence why, even though I have currently read 10 books, so I could do a 10-book wrap up, I'm just sticking to the 5 again.